Welcome back to the ECT Diaries, the podcast where we discuss teaching strategies that can help you improve your very own teaching practice. If you're new here, hello, my name is Grace. This podcast is mainly aimed for ECTs who may want new ideas or some guidance as they navigate their way through their teaching years. But if you're not an ECT and you just want to listen, that's okay too. Maybe you're a primary ed student who is waiting for their first ever teaching job, or is starting placement soon, or maybe you've been a teacher for years and you just want some fresh ideas. Either way, this is the podcast for you. Today I'm going to be discussing dialogic teaching, the benefits and the drawbacks of implementing dialogic talk to help you make an informed decision on how and if you're going to be using this in your own classroom. Personally, from looking into different perspectives on dialogic teaching and talk, this is something I would use, although I am aware of some flaws it may hold. We will discuss this further throughout today's episode on the podcast, and we will be covering all things dialogic teaching, including what dialogic talk is, how it can be implemented and how it differs from what is currently in most practice, how dialogic talk affects children's thinking skills as well as their learning in specific curriculum subjects, how this will impact the teacher and the classroom environment, and lastly we will finish the episode with some teaching strategies to overcome some drawbacks that might align with dialogic teaching. So stay tuned to find out more. Dialogic talk is a concept that has been developed by Robin Alexander over many years, from the early 2000s until 2020 so far. More recently, Alexander 2020 has defined dialogic teaching as learning through talk to develop people's thinking, understanding and reasoning skills. Alexander explains that learning is developed greatly through talk as it helps to scaffold the thinking by building new ideas on previous learning, and this can only be done if pupils learn how to question their pre-existing knowledge. In other words, dialogic talk expresses the importance of the pupil's voice in classroom interactions between the teacher and the pupil, and that is supported by Aldemia and O'Connor 2021 and Duty, Newcomies and Lavinin 2019. But differing from dialogic talk is monologic talk, which emphasises the power of the teacher in the classroom interactions, as stated by Lyle 2008. According to Myhill, Newman and Watson 2020, many teachers still use this monologic discourse when teaching. This not only means using closed, direct questions, but also managing the talk sequences that are used to control the learning that takes place. Smith 2010 found that often teachers ask questions which is then quickly followed by a response by a pupil, and from this the teacher is able to evaluate the knowledge that the pupil has straight away. However, by using this, many teachers struggle to engage their pupils in high quality interaction, and this was stated by Veen et al. 2021. This is because when teachers highlight the importance of their pupils' voice and open discussion can take place, collaborative whole class dialogue is more likely to occur, and that was found by Myhill, Newman and Watson again. Therefore, when dialogic teaching is used rather than monologic talk, pupils are given opportunities to share, expand and clarify their learning as they evaluate their own knowledge through negotiation with others, and can also replace any misconceptions or gaps they have in their pre-existing knowledge, which is supported by Veen et al. 2021. Building on this, TO 2019 recognises the deeper thinking that takes place from using dialogic teaching, but also highlights that it can also change the relationships in the classroom environment, mainly between the teacher and the student. Alexander 2020 shows this shift as a more positive move as it increases the children's motivation to learn by allowing the children to share the responsibility of what they learn, how they learn it, and they share this with the teacher. However, Resnick and Shantz 2015 disagree, as they found that many teachers avoid dialogic teaching as they believe that teachers need to provide pupils with what they class as basic information on the taught subjects before the deeper learning can then take place. In order to combat this view, Hajjasoni 2012 mentions the Socratic tradition of teaching. This is where the teacher is a facilitator in helping students to construct their own knowledge. In other words from Hutchisoni 2012, the teacher uses dialogue to support the children's role in their own learning, controlling the shift in power while still handing responsibility to the children. And adding to this, Sedlec and Sedova 2017 found that pupils who contribute in class discussions have a more positive emotional relationship with the subjects they learn and therefore develop more motivation to increase their knowledge. We discuss the teacher's role in more detail later on in the episode, but for now we will continue to discuss the impact dialogic talk can have on children's thinking and interaction skills. Highlighting the importance of social skills in developing pupils' learning is Gregory 2016. They mention that in order to learn, pupils need engaging dialogue with others. This view is also supported by Smith 2010, who discusses the work of Vygotsky to show the relevance social skills can have in developing thoughts. Supporting this, Gregory, through the work of Wilkinson and Fung 2002 and Sharkar and Sharon 1994, highlights that positive relationships between students can create deeper learning opportunities as well as developing people's academic achievement, problem-solving skills and decision making. Mercer 2013 says that these interactions between pupils are essential as they are able to communicate with each other to understand each other's minds. They also help them to reason with each other, to form new knowledge and using this to problem solve together. This can, however, cause problems as Gregory 2016 highlights the importance of a positive peer relationships, and if these interactions are not positive, it can have a detrimental effect on the pupil's learning and attainment, especially when they are working in a group or with a partner. And this was supported by Booth, Ladd and Herald 2006, which was cited by Gregory 2016. It is important to teach pupils to listen to others and pay attention to each other's ideas and opinions to help them form their positive relationships with each other to ensure a positive and supportive environment for learning is made. And this was shown by Gregory 2016. This does not always mean that they have to agree with people to have a positive relationship in the classroom. It provides students with the qualities of mutual respect to be able to disagree with each other at times. Linking to this, it is also important that talk is used to be critical. This can be achieved by teaching children to challenge, question and evaluate ideas of their own and others, and that was said by Alexander 2020. In practice, dialogue can be used between peers to see each other's points of view, question and challenge them to ultimately find an agreed understanding collaboratively, and that was found by Vicky et al. 2019 as well as Alexander 2020. Garcia Carrion et al. 2020 expresses that this can be done by students questioning ideas that are presented to them by either their peers or their teachers in order to build on this and create a new understanding together through their communication. Hutchisoni 2012 highlights that teachers should encourage pupils to think critically about their own views and thoughts as well as finding criticisms in other people's ideas, and this can help children to recognise genuine learning that goes further than just being able to answer the teacher's questions correctly. By being critical and reflecting on our own practice, Hutchisoni 2012 also reveals that this can help pupils take on board criticisms from others. By doing this, pupils can develop more complex knowledge of their own learning through acting on other people's challenges, and this was said by Sedlec and Sedova 2017. And they can build on their skills and critical thinking and will be able to use these learnt skills in more experiences other than the classroom environment. And this was again supported by Hutchisoni 2012 and later with Alexander 2020. As well as discussing thinking skills, I would also like to touch briefly on the impact dialogic teaching can have on the learning of the curriculum subjects, but more specifically mathematics, English and science. As mentioned previously, Alexander 2020 viewed learning as a social process. He stated that it is through talk that pupils develop their knowledge further for each curriculum subject by becoming more familiar with its language and concepts. This helps children to process the information at a more complex level in order to achieve the mastery of a given idea. Not only does it improve cognitive development, but Van den Broek et al. 2018 found that it also aids working memory. This relates to how children process and use information they have learned. They found that positive working memory is strongly influenced through interactions between the teacher and the pupils, and if classroom relationships are mostly positive, a child's working memory is more likely to develop. Van den Broek et al. 2018 also found that working memory plays an important role in a child's learning as it helps to store, process and manipulate the given information. To further this, there have been more strong links found between a child's school engagement, working memory, following instructions and also academic achievement, and this was found by Fitzpatrick and Pagani 2012 and Alloway 2010. Linking to the core curriculum subjects in more detail, I'm first going to talk about Dialogic Talk in science before then moving on to mathematics and then lastly English. To briefly mention science first, Mercer, Dawes and Starman 2009 note that when teaching science, it is important for teachers to not only focus on helping children learn the content of the science curriculum, but they should also prioritise helping pupils to understand the process that is used when learning and practising science. This can be done through Dialogic Talk, as children can challenge and explore the scientific concepts that are part of the science national curriculum. This holds a connection with mathematics, as Mercer, Dawes and Starman 2009 also believe that Dialogic Talk within the classroom can be used as a tool in developing children's skills in problem solving, which not only helps their scientific knowledge, as found by Mercer, Dawes and Starman 2009, but also influences their learning in mathematics, which was found by Kazak, Wegerif and Tarot in 2015. When learning mathematics, many children just look for the answer rather than focusing on the steps they have taken to get there, as it is often seen as a formal process. This was found by Stalianides 2009. Although this might not hinder their mathematical understanding at the time, it can hinder them if they come to use this knowledge again in a different situation, and that was found by Philipson and Wegerif 2017. Dialogic Talk can be used to close this gap as children are encouraged to explore and reason with different possibilities, why they would and wouldn't work in order to come up with the answer, and that was also found by Philipson and Wegerif in 2017. During this learning process, there may be a shift in perspective when new ideas are brought to the surface, and therefore new learning is then taking place. Kazak, Wegerif and Tarot 2015 says that this is an essential part in the learning process. When teaching mathematics in this way, teachers can introduce these concepts as possibilities to be explored rather than approaching it as a definite answer that needs to be found in a certain way. And that was found again by Stalianides 2009. Some strategies that might be used are asking open-ended questions to different pupils to get different points of view on the problem, as well as getting children to comment and build on each other's views, and that was found by Philipson and Wegerif 2007. Holding back on giving an explanation until the children have voiced their thoughts and ideas, and linking their ideas and feeding in solutions into the conversation between students can also help. By doing this, children are able to reason mathematically with numerical patterns, appreciate different methods of finding the answer, and articulate their process of understanding as the learning progresses through the discussion. And that was found by Kazak, Wegerif and Tarot 2015. Now let's focus our attention on English and how dialogic teaching can impact the children's writing and reading in particular. According to Philipson and Wegerif 2017, using dialogic language regularly with pupils can develop the students' reading for meaning acquisition, as they are taking these skills into consideration at the same time. Question, challenge, proposition, hypothesis, opinion, reason, assumptions, evidence and conclusion are just a few examples of the language you could use. They also found that these skills can be transferred to other curriculum areas such as writing. However, despite Alademia 2021 referencing the fact that there is little evidence to show the support that dialogic talk has in connection with children's writing skills, Kern et al. 2016 found a few years prior that over time, as children were building their reasoning and questioning skills through dialogue, that their writing quality was enhanced as they could build on their ideas and take feedback on board more effectively. Now that we have spoken about how this impacts children's thinking and reasoning skills and have touched briefly on the core subjects, I thought that we would now move on to the teacher's role in using dialogic talk in the classroom. what this means for planning and delivering lessons, any issues teachers may face by using a dialogic teaching method, and any tips and strategies that you can use in your very own practice. To clarify the teacher's role in dialogic talk, as the pupils take more responsibility of learning on the most part, as we have found previously, it is the teacher's role to guide student participation to ensure that all children are taking an active role in their learning, and this is found by Mahonen et al. 2016. This, however, doesn't mean that children are left completely in charge of what and how they learn, as dialogic teaching does require time and thought on the teacher's behalf. This is due to having to make flexible lesson plans, as questioning can go anywhere. That was found by Kim and Wilkinson 2019. On a similar note, Kim and Wilkinson 2019 also state that teaching in this way demands the teachers to have specific skills and knowledge to be able to find the most appropriate way in which they're going to further pupils' understanding, while also giving them the room to explore their new concepts. This can, however, cause problems, as many teachers may work in line with strict curriculum content-led planning, which means that some teachers may struggle to see how dialogic teaching can work in the long run, and that was found by Lyle in 2008. Despite this, Gillies 2015 found that classroom talk can be both dialogic and structured if the students are working towards a learning goal which has been clearly identified by the teacher. When guiding children into participation, teachers should use scaffolding to promote children's thinking. This was found by Mahonen et al. 2016. This means supporting students to make meaning of the concepts and encourage their independent thinking. That was found by not only Mahonen et al. 2016, but Bakker, Smith and Wegerif 2015. The class teacher can scaffold the children's discussion by encouraging them to link their prior knowledge to their current learning topic, focus their attention on some main points of the learning, and also allowing them to narrate their thinking and the reasoning process as they are learning. That was also found by Mahonen et al. 2016. Sedova et al. 2014 views dialogic teaching as something that could be done if completed effectively. They found different strategies and methods that teachers can implement to guide effective learning through dialogic talk. Some of these we may have already touched on previously, but it just sums up what teachers can use in their classroom talk. There are 6 strategies that they have mentioned in total. So 1 is allowing students to share responsibility for the discussion. This includes taking turns, asking questions and suggesting the shift in discussion. Number 2 is the teachers questioning. This means asking open, cognitive, challenging questions that can probe further learning. Number 3 is giving feedback regularly to provide pupils with the inspiration to explore a topic further. Number 4 is making connection between the students' different ideas. Number 5 is providing explanations for children's inquiries, and also supporting and justifying the ideas they are presenting with during the class discussion. Number 6 is encouraging collaboration. This means giving the children more confidence to react to what their peers say and adding on to this. By modelling this behaviour within the discussion, the pupils are more likely to get involved. Modelling through dialogic talk is important, as it can help students to pay close attention to the quality of their own reasoning they give behind the ideas that they share with the class. And that was found by Resnick, Thacker and Gregory in 2013. Even though Sedova et al. 2014 found these 6 strategies to use when dialogic teaching, they also recognised some negatives that can arise in the use of dialogic talk. They found that if these methods are not correctly planned out, and this results in the teacher spending an extended amount of time focused on one child's inquiry, other pupils can become disinterested in the topic, meaning noise level and off-task talk is more likely to occur. This goes back to the point made earlier regarding the importance of teachers' planning and the flexibility that joins alongside it. That was found by Kim and Wilkinson 2019. Another issue that was raised by Sedova et al. 2014 relates to the difficulty of assessing the children's knowledge. This is mainly done through monologic talk at the moment, using questions to find out what the children know, and in the sequence of a teacher asking a question and the children answering as their main form of communication. As mentioned previously, this was not an effective method of interaction, as found by Smith and Lyle 2010 and 2008. Therefore, Resnick and Gregory, 2013, expressed that using dialogic teaching methods guards children against errors and misconceptions, as they are able to self-assess and correct any misconceptions that they may have picked up along the way through their critical and reflective thinking skills that were mentioned in more detail earlier. So, to conclude on this episode of the ECT Diaries, in regards to using dialogic talk in the classroom, it is beneficial as it can help students to make deeper connections with their learning rather than learning for the sole purpose of answering the teacher's assessment questions. They are able to use the skills that they have learnt through dialogic teaching in many different curriculum subjects, as well as using it past their years of education. However, it is more difficult for the teacher to plan structured lessons, as the nature of dialogic teaching requires flexible, well-trained teachers to be able to navigate the learning to ensure strong connections are being made for the pupils. But using inquiry to help students deepen their knowledge in this way can benefit future teaching as the pupils build up their critical, creative and social skills. All in all, I personally would implement dialogic teaching into my lessons, despite the negatives that come alongside it, as I believe, from what I have read, taken into consideration many different viewpoints, that the positives of using dialogic teaching outweigh the negatives, while also making sure that I have enough subject knowledge and classroom management skills that will help me to overcome the barriers that have been highlighted today in this podcast. Hopefully this episode of the podcast has been informative in helping you understand dialogic talk more and showing you both sides of the scale to help you make an informed decision on whether or not this method of teaching is for you. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time on the ECT Diaries, goodbye.